Welcome into another edition of Ringside Review, coming off the heels of the March 3rd edition of Monday Night Raw. I am Athan Hristodulu, and as always, joined alongside by Jason Ounpraseuth of Nessun.com, writer extraordinaire. Monday Night Raw started off with a bang. It ended off with a bang, a surprise bang at that, one that we both definitely did not see coming at all based off a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago, but one that I don't think really anyone saw coming. We got a lot to discuss. We're going to tie up some loose ends on the Cena heel turn. We're going to talk this CM Punk call out of Rock and Cena and also just kind of where it seems Punk and Rollins are going. We'll, of course, get into the main event and the shocking title turn, but we'll start with just kind of some, I guess, like leftover stuff from the heel turn on Elimination Chamber and some reporting that came out here. The first thing is just the conspiracies regarding what The Rock has kind of been signaling. And Jason, I'll kind of let you take the lead on this one here because I have been seeing the conversation about The Rock throwing up the 3 fingers at Bad Blood, now 2 fingers at Elimination Chamber. Sounds like maybe he's counting down to something and people are finally starting to catch on. I initially thought the 3 fingers at Bad Blood in hindsight was maybe him saying that he was going to heel turn Cena, and that was what he was alluding to, but the internet seems to be going a little bit further with it, and maybe I'm missing something.
Right, and then that seemed to be the case as well, but then at the Elimination Chamber, he threw up the 2 while doing the throat slit sign, which is an odd way to do that, and so it seems intentional from The Rock. And of course, you know, the 1 finger, we know that's Roman Reigns, the bloodline, but still, like, that seems kind of weird to throw that in there. And you would think that, hey, who's the third man, brother? Looking back to the NWO days and how, you know, people were comparing Cena's heel turn to The Rock's heel turn, but then, like, Travis Scott is the third man then. Yeah. So you would think that would be the case there. And so it's kind of an odd sort of thing. Maybe, again, like I said, maybe it could be a Roman Reigns tease. Maybe not WrestleMania. Probably in the future, perhaps. If Cena does win the title, you would think, hey, doing that sort of inverse of Roman Reigns as the babyface and Cena as the heel, sort of calling back to that little feud that they had like a couple summers ago. Probably if they do that, assuming Cena does win the title at Mania.
You know what? That's actually a great point and not something that was on my radar until you just said that. But the one thing that has always kind of stood true in my eyes was that the Roman Reigns, John Cena torch passing, if you even want to call it that, at No Mercy a handful of years ago, felt so rushed, so just out of the blue. It didn't have enough setup, and typical to the tail end of Vince McMahon era fashion, it fits the bill for what was going on at that time. So if we do get an inverse on that, I'm actually gaming with just how over Roman Reigns is as a face, even though he's still trying to be like the tribal chief, and that with it comes a sort of heel persona, but everyone loves him to death at this point because of how good he was as a heel, which is the natural curve of how that arc usually goes. That's actually something I'd be on board for. So if that's the direction they go with, I'm game for that. The other thing we need to get into really fast, and this is not something that's surprising me, because when I saw the slap coming from different camera angles from Travis Scott, I thought, wow, he really laid that into Cody. And I was like, and that was so close to his ear. And I remember as Cody was leaving the ring after Elimination Chamber, his face was already purple and swelling on that same side of his head. And I thought, okay, wow, they really let him get clipped with the championship when Cena hit him. That was what I was thinking, because I feel like the TV camera that we got from Travis Scott hitting Rhodes wasn't a very good angle of it. And at this point, I'm wondering, was that scripted? Was that not scripted? Because now Cody Rhodes, and this is coming from Dave Meltzer too, I don't know how you feel about him. We haven't talked about him much on here, Jason. I'm not his biggest fan, so take this with, you know, as much salt as you're willing to, but reportedly suffering a busted eardrum and a black eye after getting hit by Travis Scott after the Elimination Chamber match. That's poor reporting on Bleacher Report's end here. Everyone's getting shots today. But what do you think? Is this gonna is this gonna create an issue at all in any shape or form between Travis Scott and WWE? Because that's if it's a ruptured eardrum or something like that this close to Mania, like, that's not ideal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm personally not much of a, I guess, Meltzer hater. Not really saying that you are. Maybe hater's a strong word, but
I might consider myself a hater.
Sure, but I think, as we saw with the Bleacher Report thing, I think the issue of Meltzer is just the aggregation of Meltzer rather than just his words himself. Looking at the original report, he simply said that Cody had a busted eardrum and a black eye. He didn't really say it was from Travis Scott. It could have come from that title shot as well. But I think people are, since Travis Scott has become this linchpin, this lightning rod of the criticism of this angle, I think people are kind of just pointing the fingers together of like, hey, Travis Scott, this guy doesn't belong in this angle, and look at him now. He's ruining this angle now. And so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not the biggest Travis Scott fan. I probably couldn't name a song to you, Athan. That's probably just me getting older. But definitely this isn't ideal. But I do want to point out that Cody is kind of a madman. I wouldn't be surprised if he told Travis Scott, hey, lay it in on me, make this look real as possible, because this is what I want. This is the same guy who wrestled with a torn pec at Hell in a Cell. This is the same guy that set himself on fire in AEW, and so this Cody is as old school as it comes, and so I would not be surprised if he's elated by this, even if this, take it with a grain of salt and all that. Maybe it isn't that bad, his eardrum, and maybe he doesn't have a black eye. I wouldn't be surprised if Cody has bought into the story and gave himself a black eye and just put up some more makeup on SmackDown and made it look like a lot more than it actually is, especially to build up this angle even further.
Yeah, I mean, we've been watching Cody get absolutely whooped over the last couple of years and lead ups to WrestleMania now. It seems like he is more than willing to take a beating. So if that's the case, then so be it. I'll be interested to see how that actually ends up looking, hopefully on SmackDown, because we didn't get anything regarding that. And it looks like SmackDown's going to get this build up, and I like that because I'm a big brand split guy, and I like when the brand split makes sense. So my hope is that we have this Cena Rhodes build on SmackDown. That way it doesn't completely overshadow a lackluster Gunther J build that I am just a full-fledged hater of at this point now and is going absolutely nowhere in my eyes. But we can talk about that another day. What we need to get into, though, for the actual show of Monday Night Raw, CM Punk calling out The Rock, John Cena, and basically anyone was able to get it at that point. And if Seth Rollins didn't come out and interrupt him, I'm sure there were probably other names he was willing to fire off. But I've got to say that he hasn't lost a step. I love his mic work. He's so fiery, so honest, so more than willing to say anything. The fact that he kind of recalled something that he said in his initial title reign from way back in that 2013 era of like capturing Vince McMahon's imaginary brass rings, essentially alluding to the titles being fake and not actually having a meaning, to being able to call it a fake title again in 2025, I thought was like great callback work on his part. We're getting the triple threat. Is that where we're going? The triple threat?
It seems that way. I mean, I would not be surprised if that did happen. I mean, it seems odd to not have a Roman Reigns at a WrestleMania. Like I said, maybe there's something involving with The Rock and Cena, but it seems like an after Mania plan. And so, like you said, Punk, he can sell any kind of story he wants, but I really don't want to see Seth Rollins and CM Punk go one-on-one. I just have no interest in the match. Personally, myself, I think Seth Rollins doesn't really do it as a singles competitor, especially nowadays. I think, they keep trying to find something interesting for him, but I was not really buying it as much as I did, I guess when he was more fresher and still newer to the scene. Just him being a veteran just doesn't really buy it for me. But yeah, I mean, just a fantastic start to Raw and just really just laying it in. And I did like the funny line that, I'm not the one carrying around a fake title. And then just people who have watched AEW, he did kind of carry around a fake title. He carried around a fake championship and put an X on it. And so that's kind of a funny, ironic twist there. Yeah,
I will say that the work that Punk does on the mic it's levels above, and he makes me, even you could see it from the crowd. I mean, they were so behind everything that he was saying. They were absolutely cheering it on him. Like, you look at the Netflix tweet there that we have pulled up with Netflix telling CM Punk to chill because he's dropping S-bombs everywhere. It was a spectacle, and if you need somebody to kick off Monday Night Raw, it's going to be CM Punk. But on the topic of him, as I just alluded to a second ago, it sounds like we're getting this triple threat here because we're getting CM Punk, we're getting Seth Rollins in a steel cage next week. Seth Rollins, kind of in a promo, alluded to Roman Reigns and what he did to him, taking him out, and basically how he kind of forced Adam Pearce's hand into booking this steel cage match next week. He's willing to do to Punk what he did to Reigns to make sure they both can't get to WrestleMania. That comment can't fly on Roman Reigns' end. I am assuming at this point we're getting Roman coming back next week to set up, or at least tease the triple threat, where then it gets, it'll get official a week or two out from the actual event itself. But that seems like the way we're going. We've talked about this a few times. with the way that they're kind of starting to build it right now, it looks like Rollins is kind of the antagonist and everything. He's creating problems with everyone. So now he's going to have two big names coming after him, gunning for him at Mania. Are we cool with this? I'm still not big on the triple threat. I don't want it, but I do kind of like the angle that they're taking it. And I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of just fine with it in terms of just the star power. But yeah, like you said, like, it's really just like, what's the story? It's just like Rollins is just the antagonist, and Roman, I guess, is childish in a way of like, hey, you can't say that about me. And then, I guess Punk is also just wanting to get his hands on everybody. And, there's still that looming thread of the Paul Heyman favor that he has. And so I guess maybe will that play a part of this storyline? Or like, I guess, I don't know, someone will take the fall perhaps, or maybe he needs Roman Reigns to help out against Seth Rollins. I mean, who knows? But that's still, I guess there is a case to be made that there's maybe some threads to this story.
My prediction for that favor from Paul Heyman on CM Punk's end, if I had to guess, he's going to tell Paul Heyman, during this triple threat at WrestleMania, you're in my corner. That would be such a slap in the face to Roman, but also put Heyman in such an impossible situation, and it would create a lot. It would make me honestly far more invested in the story, because then it really solidifies an angle between Punk and Roman that isn't necessarily there. Whereas Roman and Seth, they have an angle. CM Punk and Seth, they have an angle. Like, we need a way to kind of connect the triangle here to make this triple threat make sense, because for me, it's like, if a contendership isn't on the line or a championship isn't on the line, like, what are we doing a triple threat for kind of deal? So that's, in my eyes, like the missing bridge that we will have to cross between now and WrestleMania, but that's what I'm really pulling for. The last thing we got to talk, because you and I both completely wrote this off a few weeks ago when it was announced, Iyo Sky capturing the Women's World Championship, defeating Rhea Ripley in very shocking fashion, I think, to everybody and then some. In my eyes, and I'm curious to hear what you say about this one, Jason, I almost feel like Triple H might be trying to overcompensate a little bit too much now with the unpredictability and does it feel like it's a road to WrestleMania now thing that he mentioned at the end of Elimination Chamber. Was this always in the cards? Was everyone missing something? Is Triple H overcompensating? Like, what are we doing here? How did we get to this? Because I'm not sure how I feel about Rhea losing this close out to Mania. And the assumption, I guess, now is either Rhea is somehow on the outs or we're going to get a triple threat. And I don't really see a path for Rhea not being involved.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it might have been in the cards, I think, because after that CM Punk fiery promo to start the show, the rest of Raw was just kind of ho-hum. Like, it's just like, they're sure, like, there's the title matches and stuff, but they were just fine. They weren't really standout matches at all. And so I think, this was a perfect way to get more buzz for WWE, especially after the big Cena heel turn, getting more eyes on the product. Hey, we're starting out with CM Punk, and then we're bookending the show with another shocker with a match finish here. And so maybe it was in the plans. But yeah, it does kind of feel like, we sort of mentioned before in our Elimination Chamber, reaction, how, WWE, they kind of like Iyo Sky, but at the same time, they kind of don't also. It kind of feels like they are waiting for a chance to rug pull her any chance they get. And I feel like that's what's going to happen at Mania. But this is step one of giving her the title win, but then probably a short title reign for her, probably.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where, and you can see the tweet on here right now, deserve not given, congrats to Iyo Sky from Triple H. I feel like he really likes Iyo Sky, and maybe in years past, upper management wasn't necessarily behind her as much as Triple H was, and maybe this is her actual opportunity to be given a real run like this. It's in such a big situation, too, and I know Iyo Sky is very talented. Like, don't get me wrong here. She's just not, like, I guess, my cup of tea as a women champion. I'm far more on like the Rhea Ripley's end. Like, I love the dominating character that she has going on, and even they've made her look a lot more vulnerable. Like, if you saw the post interview she had with Jackie Redmond after the show and off the air, like, even that was just kind of like way off the character that we're used to seeing, where she's like acknowledging she's not an unstoppable force. And I'm not game for that. I want my Rhea Ripley, taking it to everybody, anyone can get it type. But my concern now is like, this goes one of two ways. Like I said, it's either going to be a one-on-one with Iyo and Bianca, and somehow this is going to be some sort of like lesson learning situation for Rhea, or it's a triple threat. And can you risk the strength of Bianca, who, don't get me wrong, I can't really remember the last time I've watched her get pinned clean, and she's not one that I feel gets pinned clean very often. You have Rhea Ripley, who obviously as recently as now yesterday, did get pinned clean, but those are two people that don't typically get pinned in situations. And are we now setting up for, we can have one of those two win without the other taking a loss, and it's going to be Iyo Sky now?
It definitely feels that way, and this is probably one of the problems of Paul Levesque, Triple H as a booker, where he is maybe giving a middle finger to those who are questioning his methods and taking shots at people who are like, oh, is this the finally built the build to WrestleMania? But then he does things like this, like you said, Rhea Ripley is supposed to be this dominating character, but then they make her look like an idiot. And then for Bianca Belair, this is finally her chance to have a dominant singles run, but then it's getting cut off with probably a triple threat, as you alluded to, and this feels like the perfect opportunity for one of them to pin Iyo so that, Iyo will get her moment for the Netflix win, but then probably everyone will forget her losing the title at Mania. And so it's just weird having your cake and eat it too kind of booking.
Oh,
it feels
definitely. I absolutely agree. And I'm curious to see where it goes. This is not a situation I thought we'd be in, but here we are. That's all we got time for, though, for today's edition of Ringside Review. I'm Athan Hristodulu, Jason Ounpraseuth alongside me. As always, if you made it to the end, greatly appreciate it. We'll see you all next week after another edition of Monday Night Raw.